So I wanted to set the scene before we fully dive into what it is that this man on the screen ends up talking about that is so interesting to us that we want to talk about here as well. Yesterday, or I guess no, technically 2 days ago, there was a live stream on BR Open Ice, which is Bleacher Report Open Ice's YouTube page, where they had former Daily Faceoff insider Frank Seravalli on, doing the broadcast, talking about the latest in the NHL, talking about Bowen Byram, as you can see in the top right, Oiland Ike, Sherlov's, and trade chatter. There was a bunch of stuff that you could go out there and listen to in this conversation, and to help us out, the link is going to be in the description. It was here on YouTube. It was on BNR's page. Actually, it was 16 hours ago, so yeah, no, not 2 days ago, yesterday. I am totally out to lunch when it comes to my timing of things and mapping out when things happened. But this 26-minute live stream is available on the Bleacher Report YouTube account to 4.65 million subscribers. What a great number there for BR. But, as you can already tell, there are a number of things that Seravalli talks about in regards to the Montreal Canadiens, in regards to the Colorado Avalanche, in regards to the LA Kings, and of course, in regards to players that we are thinking about in a very particular way. This video segment of the same video broadcast was posted onto BR Open Ice's Twitter account. It talks about Mason McTavish, but because I don't want to play the Bleacher Report live stream on my own channel, we're going to head over onto Canucks News Summaries, because what they did was they so brilliantly summarized all that it was that Seravalli spoke about on the broadcast. Big shout out over to Canucks News Summaries for always providing the scoop in a screenshotable, read-alongable format. I will always give props to Canucks News Summaries. The recap of the entire segment, actually, this might be familiar to some of y'all. We did actually talk about this segment yesterday, because we made the video talking about Artur Sherlov's and Seravalli's update on how the Oilers almost traded for Sherlov's, but then they didn't. But if you scroll down, there are some relevant thoughts on the Penguins, Mason McTavish, and Sidney Crosby that we need to dive into. So, let's start out with Pittsburgh, because this actually does fit well into the final talking point of this video. The Pittsburgh Penguins have put a high price on their players. Seravalli thinks that the Hurricanes have investigated acquiring Erik Karlsson, but ultimately, those talks were declined because the cost was too high. Now, you can talk about Pittsburgh putting a high price on their players in the context of Erik Karlsson. You can also dabble that into the trade conversations with Rickard Rakell. We were already discussing him in prior videos too. But of course, the biggest and most impactful asset that the Penguins have that is probably going to cost more than the moon and the stars, you're going to have to call up Victor and Gru to put together a package to make things work. It's going to be Sidney Crosby. But let's get to him a little bit later. Skipping over to what Seravalli talks about in regards to Mason McTavish, he says that he views McTavish as more of a quote-unquote depressed asset. He also thinks that a change of scenery would look like a very positive thing for him. He says that McTavish would, in a way, benefit from a change of scenery in the same way that Trevor Zegras might benefit from a change of scenery. Now, I just got to interject with my own commentary there. Yeah, if that change of scenery was to Rick Tocchet, then I would be so excited for Mason McTavish. I think that Tocchet would be the perfect coach for him, not Zegras. Sure, I hope that Tocchet and Zegras are able to prove me wrong, but as a Vancouver Canucks fan who has seen Rick Tocchet totally disassemble the way that skill guys play skill games the past few years here in Vancouver, I am not optimistic that guys like Mishkov and Zegras will excel under a Tocchet-like system, but then again, I have to stop talking about Tocchet, man. He's gone! He's already gone from my team, I have to stop bringing him up. But that's the comparison that Seravalli does make in the video broadcast. He says, hey, he sees similar things out of McTavish, as he did with Zegras, a change of scenery could be very good here. Teams have looked at presenting an offer sheet, according to Frank, but no one can put together something that would dissuade the Ducks from matching. Seravalli says that he thinks Mason McTavish will be an interesting name to watch moving forward. And that ultimately is the biggest hindrance in the Mason McTavish offer sheet conversation. It's the fact that whatever offer sheet Mason McTavish signs, the Ducks have so much cap space that they'll be able to match it whenever, and it's not really going to be a challenge for them to keep this guy. It's ultimately going to boil down to, does he really want out? Does he adamantly express that? And does a team give Anaheim an offer that is good enough, in their opinion, to get rid of Mason McTavish? They already got a bunch of other centers, and they're in a spot now where McTavish, I mean, the way he's described, a depressed asset, it's not really looking like everything's setting itself up properly for him heading into the next few years. Now, you're already seeing it on the screen, you have been the entire time, but let's dive into the final talking point that Seravalli has on this Bleacher Report broadcast. He talks about Sidney Crosby, and how the Habs, Avalanche, and LA Kings have been talked about acquiring him. But Crosby hasn't shown any interest in moving. If he does move, it would be an off-season trade, and not this off-season. So, might I remind you, let's head over onto our YouTube channel from a few days ago, because just last week, I think it was, there was a video that we made talking about Nick Kypreos, where Kipper went out there and spoke out on when Sidney Crosby will leave the Penguins. He predicted on the Kipper and Bourne show on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, that after the Olympics, Sidney Crosby will be on his way out of Pittsburgh. And that was kind of half-heartedly joking, but then he doubled down on it and he said, yeah, like, I have to think about it now, like, this is going to happen. The idea that Kipper presented on the broadcast was, okay, Sid is a leader, he is so capable, he's very talented, he's Captain Canada at this point, and he's going to go to the Olympics, he's going to get a taste of this super extreme, over-the-top, engaging, winning hockey, and then he's going to go back over to Pittsburgh and he's going to be like, oh, well, I'm back here now. Now I'm back in an organization where we kind of stink and we're not supposed to win and we're going to sell all our assets and we're going to get first overall. At that point, Kipper's presenting the idea that Sid might be on his way out because at that time, it's going to be the best time for Sid to boost up his trade value. It's going to be reinvigorating that engaging and competitive spark in 87, and that will be the time for him to move on. Seravalli saying the total opposite here on the BR Open Ice show, that Sidney Crosby getting traded, if he does get moved, it's going to happen next offseason. Not now, not during the season, give it a year. And he does note the Habs, Avalanche, and Kings being talked about as Crosby trade inquirers, I guess you could say. So, with all this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Frank Seravalli's scoop? Firstly, with the idea that Mason McTavish is a depressed asset, quote-unquote. Do you see similar vibes out of him, like we had seen with Trevor Zegras? Do you think that Seravalli has a point in making that connection? Or do you think Mason McTavish is more in a spot where he's just going to stick it through, he's going to still be a Duck, he's going to commit to being a Duck, and he's going to be happy doing so? Do you think there's room for an offer sheet at all? And what are your thoughts on Sidney Crosby as well? He said that the Penguins have raised their prices on a lot of these guys. I would assume Raquel, Rust, Letang probably, Carlson, Crosby, these guys are all probably worth a lot. So if you're a Canadiens, Avalanche, or a Kings fan, what are your thoughts on that higher price to potentially get this dude? Do you think it's going to be worth it? And do you think it's actually possible, even if right now, Crosby has not shown any signs of wanting to leave? Who knows if that changes after the Olympics, like Kypreos said a few weeks ago, but I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section either way. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.